Hello there, guys. Welcome back to my channel for potentially the last preview of the season that matters. But hopefully it won't be. And hopefully we'll have at least one more next week. At least one. Come on, please take a reasonable result into next week. Imagine we are basically done with the season before Frank even has his first home game. That would be mental. So please just do something reasonable tomorrow. Frank, for the love of all that's mighty, play a back three. Do not play a back four. I mean, I know there's been a few people that disagree with this, so maybe is someone here that disagrees with this as well. I don't. I think for the love of God, please play a back three because we will get absolutely spanked. But like TTA says, he thinks Lamps will play a back four. Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But a wonderful occasion today. We are joined once again. I think I actually looked at it recently. For the first time since, I think, the 22nd of September of last year, we are joined by Mr. Craigo himself. Ian, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. A lot of things to ask you, really. As quickly as you can, obviously, because I'm going to ask you a lot of things now. Season overall, what shit show, but also Potter sacking, Lampard instead now. What do you make of this? And then leading that all into a ginormous game tomorrow, which, well, it's the only thing that we could salvage any sort of positive things from this season for, really.
The season's been terrible. Let's get that straight out of the bat. I tweeted last week before, whenever it was, that I think if you sack Potter, that it doesn't necessarily solve the problem. And as much as I do think that the more time went on, I really wanted to support Graham Potter and everything that he stood for and building the club moving forward. I really wanted to get behind it. It was becoming obvious to me that it still was kind of sort of out of his own depth. But then you start to hear stories about people having to get changed in corridors and not everyone being in the changing room and meeting rooms having to take place in the media rooms and all these things. It just sounds like a nightmare. And I think that, to be honest, I think that Graham Potter was destined to fail. And I think that this team has been destined to fail. And I think something that's really obvious for me, for Chelsea at the moment, is we are massively lacking confidence. And the reason I think that why we are lacking confidence is because we don't know what's going on, because we don't know what the ownership are thinking. There's been no structure in place. The fact that Graham Potter could have been sacked for 2 months, 3 months before he even got sacked. Everything's just been completely up in the air. And I think what actually matters for Chelsea and the men's team as of right now is getting quality on the pitch. And I think that there's quality in this club, but I don't think that when you get the quality all together, you get the best out of it. And a large part of that is because of the fact that you have to juggle 30 odd names. I think any manager around the world would have to struggle, would struggle to try and get in all these 30 odd names and big players and stuff. The pressures seemed too hard for Potter. Unfortunately, he's lost his job. You know, he had death threats. He had all these things that were going around. It must have been a horrible ordeal for him. I really liked him. I thought he handled himself really quite well. He tried to change the way that he was, but realistically, it was just too big of a challenge. And I think that even for Frank now, going into the last 8 games, whatever it is, that challenge, you need a Mr. Motivator, to be honest with you. And if that's what Lampard's going to be, then brilliant. But if he fails, I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, I hear it, and I agree with most of the things you said about Potter as well. Like, I think we've all come to the conclusion by the end that, you know, it was too big for him, as much as I agree with you that almost no matter who would have taken over from Tuchel in September, no matter who it would have been, they probably would have failed. Maybe there is an exception to that, but I think it would have been an incredibly tough ask, no matter who you are, no matter what you've experienced before, no matter what kind of levels of respect you demand by your previous achievements. I think it would have just been difficult. So I don't know. I mean, did we have to pay the guy to be this intermediary manager 12 mil a week? Sorry, 12 mil a week. That's a bit harsh. 12 mil a month, wasn't it? Or a month. That would have been even more insane. 12 mil a year. I'm not sure we did, but maybe we just needed, you know, new ownership. Maybe we just needed to waste one manager to do anything more useful from that. I mean, I guess it's 2 now with Frank, but interim caretaker. I'm not
the problem I've got with it, Lars, very quickly, is the fact that any decent owner in world football would have realised what they had in Thomas Tuchel, and the fact that he wasn't their guy wouldn't have made a single bit of difference. He should never have been sacked in the first place.
Yeah, it's a tough one. While on the one hand, I kind of agree with that. On the other hand, I'm like, think of any company in the world. It doesn't really matter what branch we're talking about, whether it's football or finance or whatever it may be, if the CEO doesn't get on with kind of the second most important person, it's never going to work. And the CEO will always get rid of that second most important person if they don't get on. That's because it's a like a ground basis for the whole thing to work. And it's just a huge shame that we had to, unfortunately, or it didn't really seem to work with clearly a very good manager. That's kind of the problem. Or it was just the case that Bowley, I mean, I know he told us at the beginning different, but maybe he never planned to keep Tuchel. Maybe he always wanted to get a full clean slate from the previous ownership. I don't know. It's difficult to judge. It's difficult to judge. Pice, let me get to you. For the people wondering, it's just a different Abbey for Pice. It's still Pice. Pice, thank you for being back on. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow? Because, initially I had a couple of doubts when it was like, Lampard might come, and I was like, no way this is happening. Then it happened. I was like, all right, I'm going to get on board then, see how it goes, I guess. But then this Wolves game happened, and it drained me of any sort of confidence and optimism I had going into this Real Madrid tie that I had. And yes, any sort of confidence and optimism I had before that Wolves game was probably, fake optimism that I told myself, talked into myself, essentially, rather than anything realistic. But still, even those are gone now. How do you feel ahead of tomorrow? Because just like I said earlier, just take a decent result back to the bridge. Just that's all that matters. Just take a decent result back to the bridge, because we all know, yes, tough season, tough everything, and also we've lost hard at the bridge in the Champions League with Lampard, obviously against Bayern. But we've had some crazy nights of Champions League football at Stamford Bridge. Sometimes it just clicks. Sometimes it can just work. Whether we're the underdog, whether we're the worst team, it doesn't matter. So if we have a chance, there is always a chance. But if we lose by 3 tomorrow, even by 2, it's kind of done in my head. So, Pice, how do you see that one? And do you think we should approach it that way? Should we almost take it back to prime 2012 Chelsea, where we just park that flipping bus and make sure no one gets through it?
I mean, yeah, first of all, good to be back on. I've done a couple of podcasts today, so I've been speaking a lot, but I'm looking forward to this stream. It's going to be an interesting chat. I mean, Real Madrid's a massive game for us. Something in the back of my mind always tells me that, Chelsea will turn up in the Champions League. We got Frank Lampard, he's going to motivate them. But I did think that about Wolves as well. I thought it might be a fresh start, get some motivation in there, get some experience, experienced voices. But, it didn't turn out to be at the weekend. So I'm hoping tomorrow we can do a lot better. My natural thought is that we're going to get absolutely bonkers. We're going to get plongered, whatever you want to say. Like, we're going to get smashed. That's my natural thought. But I think it depends how he sets us up. If he sets us up where we're hard to play against, I think we can definitely dig in and get a result. That's for sure. I mean, I know they rested a few players, but they conceded 3. They lost 3-2 to Villarreal the other day. And I know obviously they're a different beast in the Champions League, but Chelsea do have that element to them as well. Chelsea can come alive in the Champions League. We may get 2 chances in the first 15 minutes and we may actually score them both, unlike every other game. It's just one of those.
It's optimistic, Pice. 2 chances and we score both. Never seen that.
It's a toss-up for me, really, because Real Madrid, they will give you chances. They're not a defensive team. And you only have to listen to David Alaba earlier. He said in the press conference, we're gonna press them intensely from the start. So, if we can get around that, we might actually have a bit of a game with them. But I personally want to just, not sit back, but like be hard to beat. No 4 at the back, go back to the 3, and just essentially just try and counter-attack them, try and frustrate them. And I know they'll be trying to frustrate us as well. One of my most worrying things about tomorrow is we've got so many important players, and if they get 1 yellow card, they're out for the second leg. I think it's Reece James, Enzo Fernandez, there's Mudryk, there's a few others. So they're going to be trying to frustrate us. So Lampard needs to take a look into that as well and set a game plan up, basically just saying, don't get frustrated. The referee as well, I've done a bit of research into him. The last 2 times he's refereed us, he's given out 4 yellows each game. So he is someone that likes to pull out his cards. So I think we should be careful tomorrow with the challenges and reactions as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. Absolutely, especially on Enzo Fernandez and Reece James. Who is the 4th one? Do you know?
There's more than 4. I think Thiago
Silva as well.
Yeah,
obviously we don't know yet if he plays, but
Thiago Silva. I think there's Mudryk. There's a couple of others. Gallagher.
Mudryk worries me less. Number 1, I don't think he'll play tomorrow. And number 2, even if he gets booked, it's not. He might come off the bench, but I'm very sure he's not going to start anyway. I mean, hey, if Ian has a different shout, we'll see about that later. But yeah, Damesh, let me take it to you, because a couple of things that both Pice and Ian have said so far in terms of motivate and everything, and that's kind of what I'm worried about. Because we're playing Real Madrid. It's not just about motivation. And, that's one of the things that was so great about Thomas Tuchel. As much as he maybe got a bit stagnant and a bit one-dimensional in certain things towards the end of last season, in pre-season, to be fair, tried things. The problem was it didn't really work. And then obviously one thing led to another, and we know where we are now. But what he most certainly was tactically incredibly intricate, incredibly detailed, as well as being a very good motivator. Because I don't think just being motivated is enough to survive at the Bernabeu. I don't think, if we were in a heyday and we had prime Frank Lampard, John Terry, Didier Drogba, Ashley Cole, Petr Cech, yeah, sure. Then it's all about getting them motivated because they know how to play football enough to hold their own. But this team, especially not knowing each other, a lot of these guys still haven't played enough with each other to really have a perfect understanding of everything. So I think a tactical setup, a tactical plan is incredibly important. And that's the part that I worry about. What is Frank going to do? Is he just going to sit there and tell the team, try hard, give your best, be aggressive? Or is he actually going to have tactical instructions? And I don't want to undermine him or demean him as a manager in that sense, but every word he said after that Wolves game was all about aggression, motivation, that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, but did you not question your own tactics? Again, you played Felix left wing, who came inside constantly, and Cucurella left back, who never pushed forward, meaning we had a whole quarter of the pitch. Quarter is a strong word, but a whole square in the attacking left side of the pitch where we never had a player. And that you can't just talk about aggression. That has nothing to do with aggression, Frank. That's tactical setup. And you could have just flipped Sterling and Felix and solved that problem, but you didn't. So, yes, it's about aggression from the players, but you also need to do your job right. And we all love you. And no one's going to change their opinion on Frank Lampard if we get knocked out by Real Madrid, unless they spank us 5-0 on 2 occasions, because we don't want to look worse than Arsenal did all those years ago. But please do something, Damesh. Do you have any hope? I mean, I put it in the title and the thumbnail that N'Golo Kante is our only hope. Eugene, before we even went live in the chat, already had a go at me that clearly Kante is not our only hope. Obviously, I'm exaggerating when I make that point, but what I'm trying to say by that is N'Golo Kante is the only player that I trust if he has a worldy game, that he is so good that he can bring any game into our favor. And I don't think any of our other players is good enough that if only they have a good game, they make the whole rest of the team have a good game. I think Kante is the only one that can do that. That's why I say Kante is our only hope. How do you see it going into tomorrow?
Yeah, do you know what? Firstly, big up, lads, big up the chat as well. It's a tough one. It's concerning, but also exciting as well, because with me, the Champions League is just watching Chelsea play the Champions League is just so it's some positivity in it, because I know obviously we've had a crap season and stuff, but when the positives have come from the season, it's been in the Champions League. So I mean, obviously we're playing Real Madrid this time as well tomorrow. That's going to be obviously difficult. They obviously haven't been 100% in the league and stuff, but when it comes to Champions League, look what they did to Liverpool and even the teams in the group as well. They absolutely sweep past teams, and it won't surprise me at all if that happens to us. But at the same time, it'd be just typical Chelsea just to go there, get a result, take it back to the bridge, and knock them out. But I'd probably say my hope is I think from a Chelsea fan perspective, I'm hoping more than being sort of realistic at the same time. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but yeah, that's my sort of thoughts on the game generally. And let's just see what sort of formation we go for, because I think that'll be extremely vital for tomorrow, whether we go with the back three or we go for the back four. I'm personally for the back three, because some of the good performances and results we've had this season have come from the back three. So that's the kind of consensus I've got at the moment, is all dependent on the lineup as well. So obviously, you mentioned about Kante being our only hope. Probably is him and Thiago Silva maybe starting tomorrow. I'm not sure if he's 100% to start tomorrow, but having him around the dressing room, the subs bench and everything, even starting, will be fantastic for us, because we saw in the Champions League run how important Silva and Kante both were, and I think you can combat Real Madrid's midfield quite well with just N'Golo Kante, because we saw against the game against, who was it? Was it Liverpool, the first game he came back against? Yeah. Or instantly when he sort of started, we missed that intensity and that ball retention in midfield, and it's just one of those where having him fit and ready will make such a difference for us. And realistically, I do expect us to go up, but at the same time, I don't think we'll get absolutely bad the way people think we are. But that's just my sort of personal opinion on it.
Well, in a way, I hope you're right. Obviously, that we don't get battered, but in a way, I also hope you're wrong and that we somehow
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Yannick said, "Yeah, we're going to win 4-0." The only problem is you got the home team wrong. So, not sure if you jinxed it now, but hey, back to optimism. Like back to optimism. No pin of shame, pin of pride.
Well, I think Kepa's the other guy who I think 1 yellow away from missing the second leg, I believe, as well.
Kante, did you say?
Oh no, Kepa.
Kepa. Well,
yeah,
that
I think he picked up a yellow against.
Well, but then again, he might time waste like crazy towards the end if it's 0-0 or something.
That might be a blessing in disguise, actually. That one.
Yeah,
maybe the case. We'll get into the goalie discussion later because that is most certainly a discussion, I suppose. Aaron, big up yourself. Appreciate you very much. Like Aaron says, please do hit that like button and subscribe on the road to 20,000 subscribers. And every new subscriber counts. So let's do that. All right. Before we get into more detail of Chelsea versus Real Madrid, let's talk a couple of pieces of news. Because there have been a couple, and I thought a couple that should probably be discussed in a bit more detail. First one being that Fabrizio Romano yesterday revealed that Chelsea want Joao Felix to stay and want to sign him permanently. The funny thing is, pretty much every neutral, but there are neutrals that know football, whether it's journalists or someone like your expert, they were like, why? Like, everyone knows that Joao Felix is a great player. The problem is, long before we ever signed Joao Felix, we decided to sign Christopher Nkunku, who is very similar to him in a lot of ways. Not in every way, but in a lot of ways. And with the problems that we have my worry with it is, and both will want to start near on every game. My concern with it is that to fit both in a team limits you so drastically tactically. Like, yes, it's possible, but I still think it limits you to 1 or 2 ways of playing. So then I'm like, is that what you want? Is that the basis you want to give a new manager? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't sign Joao Felix. It's another one of those, almost like the sanctions last year. It's just another one of those unfortunate accumulation of events in a way, because I understand why they went for him if that loan option was there in January. In a way, it's worked. In a way, it obviously hasn't, because the results haven't really improved, even if he's looked like the best attacker in pretty much every game we've played, as much as he's also looked like an attacking Kovacic who is great at everything except the most important finishing product. And I've stole that of people. I'm not saying he always looks like that. And I know Pice is probably screaming at me because he loves both. But I'll start with you on this, Ian. What is your perspective on this? Or is there a case of there's a certain number where you're like, I'm okay with it, and if it's above a certain price, then it's just not worth doing any of this? Or is it more of a principle choice where you're like, do it or don't?
I'm going to take you back on a nice little time travel to 2013-14. I'm going to take you back then when we had Oscar, Mata, and Eden Hazard. All 3 of them were pretty much the same player. Now, obviously, we know which one of them turned out to be the best of the players. That would be Eden Hazard, who was actually a nailed-down winger. But 2014-15, we won the league with pretty much that, apart from Mata. Now, the problem you've got with Joao Felix and Nkunku is that they are basically the Oscar Mata sort of saga. Chelsea won the league in 2014-15, because we had the recognised winger of Eden Hazard, the recognised winger of Willian Schürrle. Did Cuadrado come that year as well? I always get confused.
Yeah, it was that year, actually,
yeah. It was that year as well.
Yeah.
You had that structure, which was balanced across the whole of that, basically in behind the striker front line. Like, let's be honest. Signing Joao Felix now, my opinions on Joao Felix, what a player. I really like him. He's a great technical player. He can do so much. He's so brilliant with the ball at his feet. But if you've already signed Nkunku and you have Mount and you have Havertz and you have Pulisic and you have Hudson-Odoi and you have list goes on.
Well, most of those you probably won't have anymore next season, to be fair. But...
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we are 100% going to get rid of a few of these. Of course we are. But to sign more forwards, attacking midfielders, wingers, whatever you want to call it, it just doesn't make sense to me, because for the last 3 years really, since we won the Champions League, and even that season we won the Champions League, everyone seems to think there's this idea that, we were brilliant that year and everything. We were bang average when we won the Champions League. We did one thing
in the Champions League, but as a whole,
in the Champions League, we were fine because there was loads of space and we had a massive squad, which no one else had because it was the COVID year. But what we really lacked was a centre forward. And you look at people like Tammy Abraham, who I had my doubts about Tammy, of course I did, but happy to let him go. The whole point to sign Lukaku, well, that one didn't really work out. It's quite obvious that Lampard wanted a striker. Even Sarri wanted a striker when we went and got Gonzalo Higuain. Yeah, exactly.
Morata was under Conte. True.
Morata and Giroud and all these players. I can't remember what year everyone signed, but I mean, the presence of a proper centre forward is so needed in this team. I don't get signing Joao Felix when you already have all these players we've already got and Nkunku and everything else. Now, if Nkunku or Joao Felix was the option, if we hadn't signed Nkunku and it wasn't done, give me Joao Felix. I think he's a quality player. But because of the bad work that's gone on before, I think that it doesn't make any sense to sign Joao Felix. As much as, again, don't get me wrong, what a footballer. It doesn't make sense for Chelsea Football Club right now, which is horrible. But that's just the fact.
If I told you we'd sign a proper striker anyway, now how realistic that may be or not is a different discussion. But let's assume we sign a proper striker anyway. But whoever that may be, does that change it at all, or does it not really change it?
The thing for me, and when Chelsea were very successful in my lifetime and I was growing up, we had a spine of a team. We had an absolute spine, which was always Cech, Terry, Lampard, someone like Essien or Mikel. You had that absolute, guaranteed starters. The fact that we have 800 players, it feels like, in this attacking midfield role, how is anyone going to be comfortable with being a stonewall starter? As of right now, I think the only ones that are absolute dead set to start are Chilwell, Fofana, Badiashile, Reece James, which is a great back four, I think, and then Enzo Fernandez. Kante, he's fit, obviously, but of course you don't know whether Kante is going to be fit or not. I think you need to work on players who are going to be part of that spine, that this is what we're going for. There's going to be a couple of players thrown in around it. But for what I'm hearing, it might be £80 million for Joao Felix, which I get is a reduced price. I don't think it makes sense to then go and buy a player of that quality when you don't actually know if you're going to be able to use him or not in the future, because that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. I mean, look what the situation it's got us in now. Do we want another Sterling saga? Do we want another Kai Havertz, where we could all very happily say, yeah, no, if he plays, I'm happy. If he doesn't play, I also couldn't care less.
Yeah.
What's the identity of Chelsea Football Club? That's my point, and I don't know if Joao Felix is it.
No, I hear you. Like, I see a way if you play a 4-2-3-1, you put one of them on the wing, but then let one of the fullbacks attack. Therefore, that wing can come inside and the fullback creates the width. That way, you can have both in the team. I see that. But what if the manager doesn't want to play that, though?
Exactly. You need to realise what the plan is before you start to move forward. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is what is the plan for Chelsea?
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, I think you have to think a little bit deeper. Like, if this is true that we want to sign him, like, have they already got, because they've spoke to managers, haven't they already? Have they already, sort of, like, it's been reported that Enrique did like a presentation. Has he impressed?
If he's done a full-on PowerPoint on Joao Felix, it might be perfect. Who knows? But
that's the whole point. We don't even I can't say it's 100% buy right now as much as a quality player, because there's all these unknowns. This
is why I was so adamant that I felt we needed the new permanent manager now and not an interim to make that decision, to have a manager here, look at Felix, think about Nkunku and see, do I need them both? And not have Nagelsmann or whoever turn up July 1st and we've already signed Felix and Nkunku. And he's like, what the flip?
I don't think that will happen, though.
I think there's going to be a manager signed before the end of the season. I just don't think they'll take over.
But then he will still not be at training, though, and still not have been able to. Well, I guess theoretically he might be, because Lampard might not have an issue theoretically with a new manager turning up in May as the season is completely dead and done with anyway, I guess. Mm-hmm. But
you can also get
you can't put anything past our owners. They might do something stupid. They might do something smart, but they might also do something stupid. This season has proved both is possible. So my shout would be, don't sign it permanently now. Try to see if you can get another loan with an option to buy. See if you can do that. Then you have a year of Nkunku and Felix. See if it works. If it doesn't, don't sign him. If it does, amazing, sign him. That's what I would do in the current situation. Pais, before I let Damesh speak about it, I know you have slightly different views on it compared to Ian. I know you went just into some detail of it anyway, in terms of that you clearly want him, but even you're like, at least know who the new manager is and ask him what he thinks before making a final decision and, signing a deal.
Yeah, my thing is like, and I know I've been very wrong on this in the past. I've gone into so many summers, especially under the old regime, thinking, oh yeah, don't worry, he's gone. X, Y, and Z's gone out of that attack because they've been rumoured to leave, and it's not actually happened. And then we've actually been left with a few players in certain spots where we're like, okay, right, well, he's kind of blocking him now because he should have been sold. Why is he still here? He's now taking up game time. But my thing is, this summer, I actually do feel like for the first time we might see like a huge clear out in terms of everywhere in the squad. Like maybe apart
Thank God for that.
Yeah, but I think why it's actually almost forced now because of our financial accounts and stuff. Like it's known we need to make player sales, and the more we make, the more room we have for FFP. So, Craig's saying the likes of Havertz, Mount. I think both of those could very well go. At least one of them, in my opinion, will be sold.
I agree.
Hakim Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi, they are not staying. Like, as much as I'd
the only way I see Callum staying is if Pulisic is sold. I think maybe we'll want a backup winger type thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
just because I don't think he's worth a lot of money now. Like, who will want to sign him after that?
Yeah, but then even like you still got Mudryk, Sterling, Madueke, Felix, and Nkunku can play wide if they sign. Like, there's a lot of players here, and I just think this summer, like, we literally have to trim this squad down. It's not even like, okay, like we'd like to sell some players. Like, we have to, like, both financial terms and the squad size. Like, no top manager is going to take over a squad of 33 or whatever, how many players we've got. Like, it's just not happening, in my opinion. So, I think there'll be some talks behind the scenes with certain managers and the ideas for the squad. And I also don't think, like, I mean, it sounds like really stupid to say, like, if you get Felix, you can't afford, a DM, a goalie, whoever else we want to buy a striker. Like, I don't know, man. I do think we can get those areas. I was speaking to Ben Jacobs earlier, and he was saying about the financial accounts. It's like Chelsea have to weigh up the pros and cons of things. So, like, if they go in the summer and they buy Felix and they buy a striker, they buy a goalie, they buy a midfielder. Like, that could easily be an outlay of like 250 to 300 million. But they can also make like 150 million off the academy for pure profit player sales, which might then help with, the amortization of paying for Enzo and Mudryk and that, because we're still playing that yearly. So there's a lot of things that balance each other out. But essentially, as long as we make a certain amount of player sales, I think we'll be all right. And I think we'll be able to spend big again in these areas. And I think one of the reasons why it's putting people off signing Felix is because they're worried we might not get other areas. And I personally think we will, because everything about this ownership so far is they've got what they need. Like, if we need something, they've got it. You can debate whether the right player, but they've managed to do it. So I feel like signing Felix doesn't limit us that much. And also, can I just say one more thing? I'm absolutely petrified of us letting Felix go and him going to an Arsenal, a Man City, or somewhere else. He will absolutely rip this league to shreds in a better team with a world-class manager. That's why I don't want him to go. I feel like it's... I know he's not delivering on the production end, but my God, the talent and just... Like, can you imagine him in Arsenal's team with that fluid attack? Mate, it's over than it already is. Like, that's why I don't want him to leave. I want him to be a part of us.
I completely agree with that. And it's one of those things that's going to be the worst part about this is he will go and be a fantastic player and it'll be, oh, look what Chelsea could have had. But that's just a matter of the fact. That's the situation Chelsea Football Club have got themselves into.
I still think we should, I mean, obviously none of us know. Still think we should look at whether we can maybe just not sign Nkunku. I like Nkunku, and he's arguably a much more clinical version of Joao Felix. Like, if there is one thing that they're most drastically different in, is their effectiveness and their clinicalness. Now, Nkunku will be worse at other things, but he's certainly better than Felix at those things as across their career so far. Obviously, things can change again. What did I just want to highlight here? Where's it gone now? Well, now it's gone. Oh, yeah. We are not even in Europe next year. We cannot even get a financial fair play ban while we're not in Europe. So, but also for overspending, no one gets a ban for overspending. You get like a fine and all sorts of things. You don't get banned for overspending. You get banned for signing underage players, as we've learned. But Dharmesh, took a minute, but now I'll ask you the question. What's your perspective on the Joao Felix situation? Is there a number where you're like, if it's, say, under 80, all right. If it's over 80, no. Is it like just get him, or how do you view that? Well, like I say, I just think just try to learn him, especially with what Pi's touched on the financials. That's another reason why I'm like, we need to sell so many players. And yes, we might be able to do that, but there's no guarantee we will be able to do it. Now, I assume we will wait to make a final decision on Felix, a proper like signing a deal type decision, until we know we can financially handle it anyway. But even still, I'm like, when you need to sell so many players to an extent where I'm like, certainly in midfield, where I'm like, we might sell so many players that we might be understaffed in that position come next season. Who knows? You know, if they get rid of Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, come on. We don't know about Kovacic. If they get rid of all of them and sign one DM, well, then we're light in midfield again. Brilliant. That's the last thing I want. So I'm like, Damish, tell me, how do you see it?
Yeah, you guys raised some really, really interesting points regarding sort of the Joao Felix situation. I think for me, it just depends on, I think, what Pi's mentioned about us potentially not getting any other places in the team. So if it meant we get Joao Felix, but then other areas in the team get addressed, then I'd say no. But if we were still able to financially cope with bringing in those positions, I'd say yeah, because we can't waste the talent like Joao Felix, man. Like I think either Craig or Pi has mentioned about playing in Arsenal, United's team, or even Man City's team, of how much he'd cook in those sort of systems and stuff. He'd be absolutely amazing for them. And like even though we haven't seen really the output from Joao Felix that we expected, like some of the dribbles, some of the passes, even little stuff like winning fouls. Like I can't remember the last time we really saw an attacker do that since sort of Hazard left. But maybe Pulisic for a little bit, but over a consistent amount of time, I don't think I've seen such talent in a baller since Hazard's gone. And yeah, I felt like for me, I definitely want to keep it. And I agree with you, Laurenz, with the fact that we should have that loan and then obligation or option to buy for next season if that's possible. And then let's do that. See how N'Golo and Felix play in the system together, maybe a 4-2-3-1 or like a 4-3-3. Let's just see how it works with having N'Golo as maybe like a centre forward or striker. You never know. It could work with both of them getting the output that we need. So
it could, but not if we
sort of
try to sign like Osimhen, because then you can't play a good striker again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I think with signing N'Golo, it's kind of like put doubt in people's minds over signing Felix, and especially if Nagelsmann, for example, comes in the summer, then obviously he's going to be wanting to work with N'Golo and builds up the team around him as well. So there's that factor as well. But I just don't want to see Joao Felix go to another team, because we've seen like with Jorginho as an example as well of how good he's been for Arsenal as well in the system that suits him and where he's got a stable midfield as well. So yeah, for me, I'd keep Joao Felix, but it really depends on if we can address other areas in the team that are needed, i.e. like goalkeeper, midfield, well, basically everywhere, to be honest. But I think it's one of those. As well. Like I think you mentioned about selling players as well. I genuinely think if we can, then we can sort of make a lot of money from this summer from academy sales. There's talks of Ian Maatsen going for about 35-40 million to Burnley if they obviously want to.
I can only accept that if there's a buyback clause. Otherwise, it's ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's interest there. There's interest in obviously Mason Mount. There's interest in Conor Gallagher. No doubt there'll be interest for players like Ziyech, Aubameyang as well, who we haven't mentioned yet. Romelu Lukaku is also coming back as well. I think we've all forgotten about that as well. There's him as well that we also potentially would get off the books as well. So yeah, I do think there's money there to be made for us. And like Pi said, it was sort of like balance the books in a way, like we did that season where we sold 100 million worth of sort of talent, where we bought in Lukaku. Obviously, it didn't work out, but we've done it in the past before where we sold players and used that money to recruit. So it could happen this time, but you never know.
Problem is Lukaku himself with that. Number one, he only wants to go to Inter. Number two, they don't have any money. Number three, they don't even like him. I mean, it's literally their manager is criticizing Lukaku for missing the big chances for them. Which, number one, is hilarious. Number two, is probably just a way to get the deal in the summer down, because if they criticize him, we can't charge them that much money. It's probably their logic. But yeah, I mean, the Joao Felix one, it's a complicated one. It's a difficult one. At the end of the day, we can give our opinions. We can't change the outcome. So let's see what they do. And in hindsight, then let's see how it worked out. But a little bit of positive news for once. And we haven't really had much of that in a long time. Now, maybe not everyone will agree. I most certainly do. Ben Chilwell has, it's been announced today, this afternoon, has signed a new 2-year contract extension at Chelsea, taking his deal to 2027, giving him wages over £200,000 a week. We can talk about the wages. Obviously, that's will be reduced if we're not in the Champions League next season, I highly assume. At the same time, I'm like, then he's getting that for what? Not even 2 more months, and then he's going to be on the lower wages. So brilliant for him. But we can quickly read through the statement that Chelsea have released, saying Ben Chilwell has agreed to extend his contract with Chelsea Football Club by a further 2 years. The new deal, which will keep the 26-year-old at Stamford Bridge until at least the summer of 2027, was finalised today, with Chilwell having this to say. I feel very settled at Chelsea and have really enjoyed my time on the pitch here. So I'm very pleased the club want me to be part of the project long term, and I'm very happy to sign this extension to my contract. We are working hard for success, and I will do my best to bring more smiles to the faces of the fans who have made me feel so welcome. The left back or left wing back was a member of Chelsea's 2021 Champions League winning side and has since overcome a serious knee injury to re-establish himself as a key squad member for both club and country. Having signed for Chelsea in 2020 when our current caretaker manager Frank Lampard was head coach, Chilwell has made 80 appearances for the Blues and scored 9 goals, with his most recent strike coming on a return to his former club Leicester City last month. I'll start with you, Damesh. Good news? Happy that Ben Chilwell has signed a new contract?
Oh yeah, absolutely buzzing with this news, man. It's one of the positives we had in terms of recent-ish signings, because I always look at that transfer window that we had. Was it under Lampard? It was under Lampard, wasn't it? That transfer window. Yeah, we signed obviously Thiago Silva, we signed Chilwell, obviously Edouard Mendy we signed that season as well, and sort of them two, Silva and Chilwell, have been like the standout signings over the past recent years. And yeah, he's obviously he was superb, like before his main sort of injury that he had against Juventus. Obviously was out for a bit as well with that injury. Came back, looked a bit shaky, but that's understandable for not playing for a year and a half. He managed to get to the England team as well. Starts for England now as well. Also, the second injury he sustained as well, just before the World Cup as well. He's come back really well from that as well. Quite surprised actually of how well he came back, because I sort of had doubts over Chilwell, like, you know, especially for the first half of the season. I thought, in my opinion, he was dreadful, but obviously there was context to it, the fact that he'd been out for so long, and then coming back from that injury after the World Cup, he's been one of our sort of best or better players, in my opinion. I know we haven't really won a lot of games, and performances haven't been great, but I think he's definitely one person who's done really well for us. And yeah, long may it continue with Chilwell, and that sort of puts the dent in the rumours of Man City going for him as well. So yeah, which I'm happy about. And yeah, who knows, he might be a future captain or vice captain for us one day. You never know.
You never know. It's true, I guess, especially if Mason leaves. And if Reece does ever make a captain, who is going to be vice captain once Thiago's gone?
Set pieces as well, by the way. That's another thing I think he's improved massively on as well, is his crossing ability, his corners, his free kicks as well. I don't know if he's been practicing that specifically during sort of his time off during the World Cup, and obviously recovering from injury, but I feel like his set piece delivery, his corners, his free kicks, and some of the crosses he puts in the box. I think there was one cross, I think was it against Fulham? I can't remember who it was, but there was one wicked ball, and then I think Havertz tried to finish it. But obviously, you know, Havertz is like, you can't finish anything. So yeah, he's really good, man.
No, I don't disagree, mate. Absolutely. And T-Mac, I'm absolutely not having that. Get yourself in the bin. Damesh is absolutely not boring. Get yourself in the bin and go away. Do you know what I mean? Not having this whatsoever. But yeah, Ben Chilwell, Damesh touched on it in terms of, or not Damesh, actually, someone in the chat touched on it, the whole, why are we extending his contract before we have a new manager? I said this to Pies. Obviously, Pies had a similar kind of minor concern as you voiced on Twitter, even though you got cooked for it way harsher than I thought you deserved in it, even if I disagreed with you. Still think we've cooked you a bit harshly for that one.
Yeah,
I just think Chile is one of those players. I don't think there is many much better fullbacks than left backs than him in the world. Like, name me some. Do you know what I mean? You could argue Alphonso Davies. Has anyone ever seen him defend? So, you know, like playing for Bayern Munich is one thing as a fullback, but coming to the Premier League, whole different scenario. So playing in a league where you need to do both as a fullback, even though he obviously mostly plays as wingback, I don't think there is that many that are better than him. So I see what you're saying, Pies, in a way, but I'm like, if a manager comes in and has an issue with Chilwell, well, then that manager's the issue, because Chilwell is clearly good enough not to be had an issue with, in my opinion. But Pies, how do you see it? In general, I assume still reasonably happy that he extended, but you still hold that minor concern where you're like, why not wait until a new manager is here? But even then, like if his contract ran out in 2025,
yeah, he's like
now that you extend it, if the new manager doesn't like him, you can still sell him just for more.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
I know, but that's like my whole point of it. It's like, why didn't you just like? It's not really any rush, is there? Like, why do you have to do it right now? I mean, but it may be a case of they've talked to the new manager behind the scenes, like the Felix thing. I don't know, but yeah, no, I'm definitely happy. He's a really good player. I think I more got cooked for saying, I thought Luis Enrique would maybe prefer working with Cucurella with the technical aspects, but I wasn't to say, Chilwell's crap or anything. I definitely do rate him. I mean, he's been one of our most consistent performers when he's fit. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely happy to see this. It's just I'd rather wait for contracts, like let the new manager decide on the contracts, because ultimately, aren't you trying to build around this new manager like they were doing for Pot?
They're trying to build around themselves and the structure of Stewart, Vivell, these lot. That's what they're doing. They're not building around any manager, I don't think. This season has proved that to me. Because we weren't building around Potter even when they were backing him. So
yeah, that's not ideal then for me.
Oh no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. But it's what's happening anyway. Do you know what I mean? Well, for me, it's like either they play both, because I actually think Cucurella as a left centre back is a handy player that can do a good job and play a certain style of way that not many players can. But I just think at left back, pure left back in the back four, Chilwell is so far superior that I don't care who the manager is. They will not have an issue with Chilwell having signed a contract extension. If anything, I think there's more chance that Cucurella gets sold on much sooner than people expect. But that depends on what the next manager wants and does. Ian, your perspective, I assume you're very happy with Chile signing a new contract?
Yeah, no, I love him. I think it's exactly what you want from a fullback. Everyone says his strength is going forward, which I would agree. I think he's great going forward, but he ain't bad at getting back as well.
Well,
like just nicking a little foot in here and there is just what you need. I think people need to get this idea that not every single player in your team needs to be an absolute superstar. And I think that, buying Chilwell for 40 million, I think it was we signed him for,
50,
signing him for 40 million pound. I don't want him to go and be this absolutely eccentric footballer that scores so many goals. It's ridiculous. I don't want him to be on that same level as Trent or whatever when it comes to all the hype that comes around him. I just want a good footballer. I want a good footballer who's going to consistently be a good left back for me, and that is Ben Chilwell. So I love the idea of signing him for a longer contract. I didn't really understand why we thought it was necessary to go and sign Cucurella when you've got a fullback as good as Chilwell. But either way, it's been done now. The only thing I would say to you, Loz, is that although I do agree, I think that Cucurella is probably a better left centre back. Is he better than Badiashile? That's the question, and I don't think he is. But
I think he's a complete, he just is almost the complete opposite.
Small.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's even harsh. But I just think he does a certain thing in a way that he reads the game of when to press aggressively. I don't think I've seen many players that do that like Cucurella does. And if you have a manager that wants that and uses that right, I think he can be a super important player. But I don't think there's that many managers that will want or need that. So that's where it's kind of you have to.
I think for me, if you're picking the two, if you want to build a team and you want a fullback, it's Chilwell all day long. And it's not that's not anything against Cucurella. I actually quite like him. I think that he's a decent player. I think like everyone in the squad, he's massively struggled with confidence. But I still think if I had to pick one right now, Chilwell will be the one I would commit my future to. So I'm happy Chelsea are doing it as well.
Absolutely. And I'll be totally honest. I know we signed the guy last year, and I have no problem with him. And I like him. I probably rate him more than most other Chelsea fans do, if I'm honest. But would I be totally upset if we got rid of Cucurella again and kept Martin? I would not be upset. I'll tell you straight up, I would not be upset by that. But there you go. We have spent more time on all of these discussions than I initially had planned, but I quickly just want to touch on this one as well. Let's hope we're not gonna. Where is it? There you go. Let's try not to spend too much time on this, but just quickly, what do we think of this preseason stuff? Obviously, we're gonna hold a main camp in preseason in Philadelphia. Where we're going to play the first game of our preseason fixtures. Then we're going to play Newcastle in Atlanta, which, yes, it's both on the East Coast. Yes, it's both in the same time zone. But I think people don't realize how big America is. Because Philadelphia to Atlanta is further than Glasgow to London. I hope people are aware of that. America is just
It's
very
a lot
big.
further.
yeah. Like America is just very big. So like when they told us we were not going to travel this much, well, that was a lie. Because where did we play? We played in like Las Vegas and Orlando. That's not that much further than, like it is further, but not that much further than Philadelphia is to Atlanta. I'm just saying. Like, yeah, it's time zones, but the time zones ain't the issue. We travel time zones every time we play in Europe. Okay, it's only one time zone, sure. But those was only two as well. I don't think that, I know the media tried to tell us that, but the time zone is not the issue. The issue is the time spent on planes, which I still don't think is solved here. But also, okay, we're not going to be in Europe next year. So maybe we don't need to test ourselves against Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, PSG, whatever else. But this just seems like some mid-table FIFA career mode. If you have a career mode with flipping Everton pre-season tournament, like what's this? Brighton. I mean, Newcastle, okay, they might get top 4. So let's leave Newcastle out of the discussion. But Brighton, Fulham, Brentford is in this as well, even if we're not playing them. Leeds, potentially, if they stay up, like what? Sorry, what? Like, we're Chelsea Football Club here. And I know we are mid-table this season, but we strive to not be that again next season, right? So, I do have a couple of that. Obviously, there's still hope that we add another 1 or 2 other preseason games, which could be against the Barcelona, whoever else, all big. But I also think, like, we're struggling for money right now. Like, we apparently have to sell all these players, and then we play a preseason tournament against Brighton and Fulham. Well, we're not going to make much money from that, are we? Like, who's going to afford if I'm going to watch that? Like, no one's going to watch that. Maybe against Newcastle, but no one else will. So,
Let's be honest. In this, we are the hype, and we are shit. So, I mean, it really just sums up about what the sort of tournament is like.
No, I agree with you. And like I say, I do think it's actually good we get a new manager who's most likely not Premier League experienced. So testing against Premier League opponents from that perspective is smart. But I still think we need a couple of bigger opponents as well. I will say that. Pice, when I let you go first, you didn't quite hold the same reservations as I do. You only saw the positives. Is that still the case?
I think the big thing for me is, like you mentioned, I think the new manager coming in and playing Premier League opposition, I think that's really vital. Amazing stadiums, by the way. I love the stadium, especially at Atlanta one. It looks so good on the highlights.
Apparently, this one where we're going to play Fulham, loads of players have picked up serious injuries, which I'm like,
oh, great.
I don't know if that's true, but someone replied that to me on Twitter. So,
right, yeah, well, that's not ideal. I mean, you can only blame Todd Bowley and Igbali for that if that does happen, because last pre-season, obviously Tuchel and even apparently some players, I think in the Athletic, were like not very happy. I think they reported it. So yeah, with like the conditions and stuff for the grass, or I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's always nice to play a bigger team, but for me, I don't know. I don't really care as much as you, to be honest. Like, yeah, it's just pre-season at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I just think it's a bit of a, it just sets the tone. If you don't even test against big teams, it just feels like we're not even attempting to compete with them. And I know that's not the reality, but I think that's what it comes across as. And I think that's just a bad message to send. A dumb message, without going into too much detail, because we need to continue, obviously, with actually talking about Real Madrid. But in general, do you care at all that we're only playing two mid-table teams from the Premier League and Newcastle? Do you care about this at all, or do you think
not really? To be honest, at least we can at least we have a chance of winning and not get battered like 4-5-0 against Arsenal like we did last season. So yeah, you never know. Like, as I said earlier, I think we're just trying to push this West London derby narrative because Chelsea Fulham's like the deadest derby probably like in England. So yeah, I'm not really too fast. As long as we win and some good performances, I'm there to take into starting the season. Yeah, let's just roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, and hey, Ray ain't even wrong. All 3 of these are ahead of us in the Premier League right now. So,
very true. Yeah,
but yeah, there you go. On playing at Stamford Bridge during summer. Well, we usually at times we play 1, but that is not every year. So yeah, because Ian isn't currently on screen and we don't have that much time left. Let's just move on. He is back. Thoughts preseason? Fair.
That.
No, fair. Why
Short
not?
and
Why
sweet.
not?
I rate it.
I can say though it's FedEx Field. It is somewhere that it's the Washington Commanders, used to be the Washington Redskins that used to play there. They have had a long injury history there, and a lot of people do think it is because of the ground. That's the only thing I'll say. It's because of the way that the grass is in that part of the world. But
So that's what
there's a large thing in the
Never
NFL. They are very tempted to change it to AstroTurf. Put it that way. And
And
that's
that
a whole,
that's
a whole thing in
that
itself.
would be even worse than AstroTurf.
Yeah, it's a whole big thing. It's a saga, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm minorly concerned by that, but I say no, I'm not even just minorly concerned. I'm extremely concerned. Remember last time what happened? We ruined a whole player's career for it. Cheers, mate. Do you know what I mean? But
Yes,
some more
relax
positive
about
news.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He's gone. He's finished. He's past it. It's a shame.
Bro,
Move
he's not
on.
gone. He
Loss.
might start
Get
tomorrow.
over
What?
it.
He might start tomorrow. What? But some arguably even better news than Chile extending his contract. Thiago Silva is back in training. Now, I do not know if he will be able to start tomorrow. Frank Lampard's press conference will start relatively soon. Hopefully, I mean, they have confirmed Thiago Silva, Aspie, Mount, and obviously Kante have all traveled, but that doesn't necessarily mean he'll be able to start. For me, it's like we have 2 more games that matter. This Wednesday, next Tuesday. Everything else doesn't matter. If Thiago does aggravate his injury again, well, so be it. You know, like he has all the way until August to come back from it again, because nothing until that matters. Thiago Silva doesn't need, to gel with the players. Thiago Silva doesn't need to get to know the new manager. Thiago Silva. If he's going to play a significant role next season, even at nearly 40, then, he'll be fine. Clearly. I mean, we've seen him play plenty of times. So, in my opinion, and obviously Thiago has to agree with this himself. If he is like, no, I'd rather not be, risking another injury, then of course. But I don't see him as that guy. So I think he will be very happy to play, even not at 100%, and he must do, in my opinion. Especially in the away leg, because in the away leg we will be sitting deep, I assume, if we have something to chase and stuff in the home leg and we play a high line, maybe especially a not fully fit Thiago Silva could then be a bit of a concern for lack of pace and stuff. But in the away leg, if we're going to go into it rather defensively, then we should be going for that anyway. But let's talk about the team. What do we all want? Now, I put it on the screen, put it on the thumbnail and everything. Please play a back 3. To me, we should be playing a 3-5-2. I don't even think we should be playing a 3-4-3 because, and I'll tell you right now, quite simply. So I need the 3 to have one individual specifically taking care of Vinicius Jr. because Vinicius Jr. is a terrifying player. Absolutely terrifying at everything he does, to me. And then I also need a midfield 3 because Real Madrid's midfield 3, even though they've lost Casemiro, obviously, still with having Luka Modric, having Toni Kroos, having Fede Valverde, having Camavinga, having Tchouaméni, we need a midfield 3. Maybe a midfield 2 with Kante can handle it, but I don't trust it enough to go with it. So for me, it should be a 3-5-2. Ian, do you agree? 3-5-2 is what we should go for?
Yeah, 100%. You have to play to your strengths. I appreciate Lampard wants to play a back 4, but I keep saying this, I say it all the time. I actually like Chelsea in a back 3. We went to Wolves a few years ago when Lampard was in charge, absolutely dominated them playing a 3 at the back. And I think there's going to be a lot of space in this game. I think we need to be able to soak up pressure. That 3 can become a 5 very quickly if we want it to be as well. I just think it gives you more options to play with rather than the back 4. I think the back 4 is too complicated for a game like this.
No, I completely agree, especially with the forward threats that they have. I know they only really attack down the left anyway, because on the right it will often be a Valverde playing a mix of, well, they kind of play a weird mix of 4-3-3 and 4-4-2 diamond, where Valverde switches between being a right centre mid and a right winger constantly because he has the stamina and the pace to do it. So their right-siding attack isn't necessarily going to be the most dangerous aside from a cross or two, but purely to deal with their left attacking side and Benzema, just do this. Pies, are you in agreement with that? Or would you say, I know you definitely prefer the back 3 for this, or would you prefer 3-4-3?
I did my lineup yesterday on my personal Twitter account, and I did a 3-5-2. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys.
First, Damesh, you in agreement on the 3-5-2 specifically as well?
Yeah, 3-5-2 for me as well. Have to combat that midfield as much as we can, because that's one area we kind of struggle with, especially in the home game last season with the 3 midfield. So yeah, 3-5-2 for me as well. And It worked quite well, to be fair. The three that we played against Liverpool, Enzo, Kante, and
Just
Cover.
about
So
take your chances. But even then, I'll be happy with a 0-0 tomorrow. So I don't even care about the chances. Do you know what I mean? So like, just keep a clean sheet. That's literally what matters most. If we score a goal or two, amazing. If we don't, it's okay. We can do that next week. But yeah, that's my perspective on that one. Just super quickly, I did a poll yesterday on Twitter before we get into. I guess we should talk about the goalkeeper before. Maybe Craig will mention Mendy now. I'll leave him to last. Then I'll start with you, Damesh. We're not predicting the 11 today. We're deciding who we would like to see. So on the basis of that, Kepa has had his issues. I still think the score. Can't talk. The goal by Wolves was unsavable. I don't think anyone saves that. I know there is a screenshot where his hand is super close to it. I'm like, well, yeah, but the ball was traveling at like 100 miles an hour. Sure, a screenshot can make you look bad, but you try touching something at 100 miles an hour, get your arm out. You know what I mean? Like, I've had people like, come on now, screenshots for a shot over 100 miles an hour. Don't use screenshots for those. But purely because Lampard picked Kepa in the last game, we all know he's going to pick him tomorrow. But would you switch it around? I just think as much as Mendy has his benefits, I'm sure. And the problem with Mendy is also he's difficult to judge because we haven't seen him play in so long. We don't really know which Mendy to think of. Do we think of the Mendy of the start of the season or since Africa Cup, who's been kind of dreadful and worse than Kepa has all season? Or do we think of the Mendy from before that? Because that Mendy was great, but we don't know if that Mendy's still there or not. So would you pick Kepa, Damesh, or would you pick Mendy?
yeah, just on that goal first, that was like Van Basten-esque, man. So like literally nobody's stopping that. So yeah, it's annoying with Mendy because he hasn't. I can't remember the last game he played, honestly. And I think for me,
Newcastle
it's just
before
like
the World Cup. Last game before the World Cup he played because Kepa was injured.
Yeah, it's just one of them where we haven't really seen any sort of build up of form. Like if we sort of any build up of form from Mendy, for example, if he's starting a couple of games before, then depending on how we did, then I'd say start Mendy. But I think for me, just start Kepa because even though he's had his faults in a couple of games, he's also saved us a couple of times as well, and his distribution is going to be absolutely key for this game as well. So for me, it's Kepa, but I don't think Kepa will ever reach Mendy levels though of how he was like pre-AFCON and in that season when we won the Champions League as well. I don't think Kepa will ever reach that level.
I agree with you on that.
But yeah, he was obviously got that Yashin. Did he get the Yashin award as well that year?
Yeah,
or the
he
best
got
goalkeeper
robbed,
award or something like that. Yeah,
he should have won it, but he got robbed. I think.
Oh,
I thought he did.
Oh, okay.
I thought he did win it.
Maybe he won that one, but he didn't.
Maybe.
But he didn't win the other one where Courtois won it, and everyone was like, "Well, did you watch the Champions League games?"
But okay, I can't remember who. But I think if they're both on form, if that's the question, then I'm 100% picking Mendy. But we haven't seen Mendy play for like God knows how long. So yeah, I'll probably go with Kepa for tomorrow.
And this is another reason, by the way. 3-5-2, you're less likely to concede long shots because you have more players to close down players to shoot from distance. If your players try hard enough, do you know what I mean? And I would bloody hope they do in the fucking Bernabeu. Pice, Kepa, Mendy, who would you pick?
God, I mean, it's. I was going to use that phrase where Jamie Carragher said on Sky Sports yesterday. It's like between who nicks your wife sort of thing. But,
Yeah.
Two blokes to nick your wife or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably go Kepa just because Mendy hasn't played in so long, and it's like, I mean, you see him last year at the Bernabeu. He arguably cost us the game, to be fair. So I will go with Kepa, but I don't know. I honestly don't really care that much. One thing to be fair, one thing I would say is, I think Real Madrid are going to press us really good. So I think Kepa may just have that slight advantage over Mendy. I don't want Mendy just passing the ball to Benzema and him having a tap in like last time, to be fair. So
exactly. I really don't need a carriers happening. That is the last thing I need. We are joined by Euro expert Alex. I will get to you in just a minute's time. Let Ian finish off his shout on the goalkeeper. I know you were talking about Mendy in terms of maybe that will be a blessing in disguise of playing over Kepa anyway. Would that also apply to tomorrow when Mendy hasn't played in as long as he has? Or would you just forcibly have to stick with Kepa?
No, you have to play Kepa. As much as I don't like it, you have to play Kepa. I think I was just looking up here. I'm not one for stats. I hate them, to be honest. But I was just having a look on here. although we've only scored 29 goals, which is half the reason we're in the position we're in at the moment in the Premier League, we have only conceded 31, which is better than a lot of teams above us, to be honest with you. Man United have conceded more.
Mate, a few weeks ago, we had the second best defense in the league.
Villa.
It's crazy.
Pretty much every team above us, bar the two that are running away with it, have conceded more goals than us. And Kepa's been playing in goal. So keep it going. As much as I don't love it, you just have to keep rolling with what you've got. And again, let's be honest, the Wolves goal is unstoppable. So play him. It's not his fault that shot comes in.
Exactly that. So, Alex, let me get to you. Ian, you let me know when you need to head off. But
I think Mum's burnt the potatoes, so I think I've got a bit of time, to be honest.
Thanks, Mum. But hopefully you'll still have nice potatoes later. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
but Alex, thank you for joining us. I mean, we will have our debates about your choice of shirt today, but where your allegiances lie. But I appreciate you giving us your time. I won't necessarily bore you with the goalkeeper situation, but what I will bring up on screen now is a poll I did yesterday on Twitter to figure out what people want in terms of the back three. And I'll ask the guys what they would like to pick in a second. But for me, first off, I guess I should also pose it to you. Do you agree that Chelsea must play a back three tomorrow and not try some crazy back four business here? Because, I mean, we haven't in weeks. It's never worked. Lampard did it against Wolves. It didn't work. Should we really try it against Vinicius Jr. and Karim Benzema? I think not.
I'd be going for even more of a back five, to be honest. It's part of what I've got against Real Madrid here. And just to point out, because Pius is shouting abuse in the private chat, this shirt is just symbolic of the other side, the other side perspective. Okay, I've got a Tottenham shirt in the wardrobe. I can put that on if you want.
Oh my god, bro! I'm never speaking to you again.
Oh, I think we might have to cut Alex's visit to the channel short today.
Anyway, no, I'd be going with a back five because I've been looking at Real Madrid quite in depth all season, to be honest, because they're such a weird team to figure out. The Champions League, they always go far, and the closest you can get to a game plan really is quite simply parking the bus. Every team that tries to play against them and gets confident gets exposed. And I was just rewatching your game against them last year, the second leg, before I came on. And you can tell the moment Chelsea started losing it is when, you have 3 goals up, game is in your hands. And then just as that bit of space opens up, Real Madrid can pick you off. And that's happened in all, Liverpool was a great example. Liverpool pressed them really hard in the round of 16 for the first 25 minutes. And then once they let off a bit of steam, they carried on trying to play with a lot of the ball. They didn't retreat into their own defensive third, and Real Madrid punished them. Of every game you look at Real Madrid that have lost in 2023, whether it's against Mallorca, Barcelona, it's
Villarreal on the weekend.
Villarreal on the weekend. It's always been one where Madrid have had more of the ball. And of course, at Real Madrid, they're usually going to have more possession, but you'd be surprised to see that in a lot of times, particularly in the Champions League, particularly last season, they often get by being the counter-attacking team and letting the other team play. So my long-winded answer to your question, and it's going to guide the rest of the answers, which I'm getting out of the way now, is for Chelsea, I'd be going as counter-attacking as defensive as possible. We'll not be looking to play a back four. We'll not be looking to try and impose the game plan, whatever game plan Frank Lampard has.
We just need to take a decent result back to the second leg anyway. That's what matters tomorrow. So no, we are in full agreement with you. I mean, we all picked the 3-5-2, so it doesn't really get more defensive and counter-attacking than that, does it? But I asked my audience, although it was also Pice that retweeted, so partly was Pice's audience, I will say. But I asked the people, let's hope and assume Thiago Silva can start. We agreed that just throw him in. What else is there to play for this season? We're not resting him for flipping, I don't know, Brighton on Saturday, are we? Do you know what I mean? But Yashil, of course, is ineligible. So if we play a back three, who should fill that back three is the question. Now, I gave the people the option of Fofana right centre back, Silva in the middle, Cucurella left centre back, Fofana right centre back, Silva in the middle, and Koulibaly left centre back, which won by an absolute landslide, which to me is kind of baffling, but just shows the opinion that people have of Cucurella. And then I gave them the option of James, Silva, and Fofana at left centre-back. Fofana having played, it's not like Fofana can only play right centre-back, by the way. He played left centre-back in a back three at Leicester a few times. I'm not sure how often, but he certainly played it before. It's not like he would play a new position he's never seen before. And again, I'm not sure if Alex would actually agree with this, but I said this earlier, their chances are they're probably going to play Valverde on the wing again in this weird mix of right centre-mid / right wing. And then is the left centre-back going to be so defensively pushed. I don't know. But one thing is for sure, I do not like Koulibaly getting dragged wide. So I personally would disagree with the pick of the poll. But Alex, before I let the people pick, the people meaning the panel, what do you think would be the smartest back three? Obviously, I know back five, but wing backs we'll talk after. What would be the best back three in your opinion to pick, assuming that Silva can start?
Okay, well, I think it's a hard perspective of mine because I still think of Koulibaly as like this excellent Serie A defender. I think I've missed all these terrible performances for Chelsea, which seems to have
He's
ruined
been
his
okay as a central centre back, but if Silva is there, then to me he shouldn't be playing.
Right. Okay. Well, I wouldn't be starting Cucurella and Bellamps mainly because I think what he offers is a lot more in possession, like just keeping the ball ticking over, building out. He's not a very defensive player, so I'll be looking at one of those bottom two. And like Reece James, obviously, he's one of your best attacking players. Ideally, you want to play him as a right wing back, but I'd understand without Badiashile why you'd use him defensively just to be,
especially because he's proved that he can deal with Vinicius.
Yeah, and Vinicius this season's not been completely on fire. I mean, Benzema's the only player in the Real Madrid team in La Liga to have more than 10 league goals. Now, Vinicius has been pretty good, but
he has 9, to be fair. It's not like he's far off 10.
But yeah, it really goes to show Real Madrid this season have been a little.
There's a reason why they're 15 points behind Barca, or is it 13? I think Barca.
Yeah, I think it's 12 or 13 points. Yeah, so I'll be going Reece James, protect that sort of left hand side. But when we get more into the defense, I mean, it's interesting. Real Madrid, they could do what Valverde does, which you've already outlined, plays on the right wing, comes into the middle. But what they've been doing recently, they smashed Barcelona with this tactic last week in the Copa del Rey. They played Valverde on the right, Rodrigo as an attacking midfielder, Vinicius on the left, Benzema up front. And I think it was a Camavinga or Tchouaméni Kroos pivot. It was like a midfield pivot. That I'd be interested if they will that out again because the fans really like Rodrigo as an attacking midfielder. So it might be, they might cook up something a little different. So that's something to be aware as well.
But that would still leave Valverde on the right, though.
Yeah, but it would be, he's been much more of a right winger.
Okay, I guess so. Absolutely. Let's bring it back to the other screen and ask the guys if they agree with that sentiment. Now, obviously, we have then a question of what do we do at right wing back if Reece James were to play at right centre back. But I just gonna put it on screen now. You guys can obviously then disagree with that if you want. I think because like I say, tomorrow, it doesn't matter if we score. As long as we keep a clean sheet, that's a good result to take into next week. And then we can think about that. Silva is going to be a bit fresher, blah, blah, blah. That can be a whole new discussion then. But I think for tomorrow, this is what we should do. I think that. Who shall I go with first? Shall I go with you first, Ian, just in case at some point food is ready? What do you reckon? Do you think it's crazy talk to put James at right centre back? I'm just like, he did it last year.
Okay. No, it's not. But we need to have the other option at the right wing back, whoever it be. Now, if Azpilicueta's travelled and he can play...
Mate, it should not be Azpilicueta.
But if you're going to try and stop Vinicius Junior, if you've got two people who can both defend, i.e. Vinicius Junior against James and Azpi, that I could kind of get behind. But for me, I think you have to play Reece James as the right wing back just because of the fact that, again, he is going up against Vinicius Jr. I think if you potentially play him as the right centre-back, whoever the right wing-back would end up being, which could be Loftus-Cheek, which we don't want to see again, that's
again, it did last week, though, when we won there. Last year, of course, did last week.
What, when... Who played right
when we were 3-0 up and then bottled it, Didn't he take Ruben off when we bottled it, actually? So when Ruben was on the pitch, we were 3-0 up.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I like the idea of doing this. I have to be honest. I see what the logic is, but I don't think that I don't think you can get away with not playing Koulibaly. A bit of height, a bit of physicality as well. Let's be honest, they are still going to bring people forward. I assume it's going to be Eder Militao that plays centre half for them. Correct me if I'm wrong in that. Mm-hmm. Who's going to mark him from corners? Is it going to be Fofana? What about them Rudiger potentially coming
maybe
forward?
Ruben himself. He is massive at least.
Is he going to win? Is he going to? Is he going to win a header? That's the question. I think.
You know what my thinking is, though, because for me, my logic is obviously Alex just said that if they play more of a 4-2-3-1 type thing, then maybe Vinny will stay more out wide. But often as well, especially when they try to, when they are counter-attacking, which is arguably what Madrid are best at, then it's often a way of a front two as well, of Vini and Benzema. So I think the right centre-back will deal way more with Vinicius Junior than the right wing-back will.
But I think
five, the Vinicius, I think the right centre-back is much more important for Vinicius than a right wing-back is.
The thing for me, and is what we were saying earlier, I want to soak up pressure. That's what I think the game plan should be, is to soak up as much pressure as possible. And with that in mind, you get as many defenders on the pitch as possible, which would mean playing Reece James as the right wing back and then having a right centre half, I would say. Because only in this situation, as of right now, the only people you're going to put in is that, what on here is player number 9, the right wing back. The only people you're going to put in is going to be a midfielder.
Yeah, no, that is true. That is very true.
And I do not want Conor Gallagher, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mudryk, Pulisic, Sterling. I don't want any of that. I want defenders.
No, I agree. We certainly shouldn't put a winger there. I do agree with that. All right. I mean, let's see whether the boys agree. Pice, I get to you. What back three would you pick? I know you said you put your ideal lineup out yesterday. Number one, did you stick with that? And if so, what was it?
Well, it was Koulibaly, Silva, and Fofana. But going into that, I was thinking, when I was doing it myself, I was thinking, Koulibaly in wide spaces. I don't like him as a left centre-back. He gets dragged out. That's when he gets clumsy and reckless. He's too easy to beat nowadays. And he's not been a solid defender when he's not in the middle of a back three. So I don't know. I see, you guys' point, whoever said it about Cucurella in possession is better for building out. He's better under the press, but he's also been really bad. So I guess the good games he's had has come at left centre back. I mean, he did very well against Dortmund, but Dortmund aren't Real Madrid, so I don't really know. I would still stick with Koulibaly for height and big game experience, but I don't think it's I'd love Koulibaly to start type thing. It's just that's what I prefer personally, I think.
Fair. Damesh, how do you see it? Do you agree with Ian and Price on that one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sort of listen to Alex's analysis as well, just before you guys sort of decided. And I think I voted yesterday. I think I voted for Cucurella, Silva, Cucurella, Silva, and Fofana.
Yeah, I just to clarify, I would pick Cucurella over Koulibaly. Like my second choice would be Fofana, Silva, Cucurella, and only third would be with Koulibaly in it. Just because, Koulibaly wide against the pace of Valverde or Rodrigo.
That's the thing that scares me as well.
He's quicker than Cucurella, bro.
He is. That is true, but he doesn't read the game properly. At least when he's played for us, he hasn't.
One thing I will say about Koulibaly, to be fair, sorry, I know I've already spoken on it, but having Thiago Silva next to him, that calm head, I think is going to be a massive help to him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be as rash.
Who was it against where Koulibaly looked so bad at left centre back, even next to Silva? I can't remember who it was.
Was it Leeds?
A few weeks ago, and it's I just weren't a fan. But Damesh, sorry, going back to you, is that what you stick with, that Cucurella idea, or have you changed your mind?
No, I'll probably still stick with Cucurella. The way I see it is with the options that you sort of given, I think there's pros and cons to all of them. I don't think there's one set in stone back three partnership that we should be like, oh yeah, it should be definitely be this one. But I think for me, Cucurella can step into midfield as well, add extra body into midfield as well. But obviously that'll expose Chile a little bit as well on that left-hand side as well. But I think what will be key as well is the corners under pressure, keeping the ball, passing it around as well. And I think Cucurella, regardless of what we think of him, I think that's one of his strong attributes is at times stepping in. And obviously we want to soak up pressure as Craig mentioned before, which is fine. But I think at some point in the game, we will have to have a go, I think, at Madrid. And it'd be great if we get an away goal. Obviously, away goals don't really matter, but if we end up scoring there, that'd be great. And then maybe we could take Cucurella off after a certain amount of time and put maybe Koulibaly there. But I've seen enough of Koulibaly to think I don't really fully trust him. But then again, he has his positives as well. Has Koulibaly played against Madrid before, or I don't know if he's played at the Bernabeu before.
I don't remember a Napoli Real Madrid game in recent history, but I could just be forgetting it. So I don't think
and,
he has.
And obviously, like Champions League experience is key as well, which is why you could possibly turn up. But yeah, that's just the way I see it. I think there's
does he
positives,
have
pros
that
and
much
cons to
Champions
all
League
three.
experience? How many seasons did Napoli spend in the Champions League, and how often did they make it any further than the group stages? You know, like I think this is a bit of a misconception. Napoli haven't made it anywhere. Like this season, when was the last time they made it past the round of 16? I'm not sure they actually have that. He actually has a lot of Champions League experience, if I'm honest. But not fair. It is absolutely fair. And so now, Alex, you're the expert. I went along with your pick, even though you were not fully decided either. As much as you are the expert, have any of the boys convinced you otherwise to now change what you picked as the main thing to pick?
Ian actually kind of did, to be honest, thinking about the most convincing argument is if you put Reece James at right centre back, who's going to play at right wing back, and that is a big conundrum. I think you can't afford to have a non-defender there, especially on Real Madrid's left-hand side. I mean, I'm not sure who'll start there tomorrow. It might be David Alaba, so it's not going to be what happened last year. Ferland Mendy and Vinicius. Mendy's injured, so I'm thinking you'd have to lean more to Fofana, Thiago Silva, and Koulibaly. It just seems very awkward. You never had you didn't register him for the Champions League by the issue there.
Yeah, but then Mudryk will probably not feature tomorrow regardless. Koulibaly played at Madrid for Napoli in 2017. Well, there you go. Thank you, Ian. So now I lost my whole train of thought.
Mudryk.
Oh yeah, Mudryk. Chances are he won't play tomorrow anyway. If he will be off the bench. So I guess you might as well have not registered him. But at the same time, imagine signing someone for what everyone talks about, 100 million euros, and then you don't register him for a Champions League. Imagine the PR. Do you know what I mean? So I understand why they did.
No, you got a point. Imagine signing someone £100 million and making him sit on the floor in the dressing room.
Or that, or that. No, I mean that was slightly misconstrued. Like they did just get a different room. It wasn't quite the corridor as much as the good old Athletic. As much as I rate and love them, as much as they tried to make us look bad again, it wasn't quite the corridor, but the main dressing room was clearly full, which is a serious issue. But yeah, I mean there you go. I mean if you have changed your mind, then I guess we will change that for the time being. Put Fofana over here. And then I gave you, ladies and gentlemen, a poll in the chat to pick between Koulibaly and Cucurella because then it seems it's a 50-50. So therefore, you pick. I assume you guys are probably going to pick Koulibaly, sorry. But, I leave you guys that, up for your decision, I suppose. So place your vote in the poll, please, and then we will move on. I think this one we can keep pretty short now that we haven't picked Reece James at right centre-back. The wing-backs kind of picked themselves. Right, Pice?
What's up?
The wing-backs kind of pick themselves if Reece James doesn't play centre-back, does he?
Yeah, I mean, I did have a couple of shouts for Mudryk left wing-back, but I thought, nah, surely not.
Not in Madrid. Like, who came up with that idea?
Well, he did get that, round of applause performance for Shakhtar. But
not a left wing-back.
No, but, people are like, well, you've got to fit him in somewhere and he's not going to play up front, so... But yeah, no,
we should play him up front purely to get him behind. I don't know.
James and Chiwell for me, yeah, would definitely be the wing backs, of course.
There you go, Damesh. You agree as well?
Yeah, James and Chilwell just explains itself. To be honest, they're both quality players and make a difference to our team. So yeah, stick with both of them.
There you go. I know it's more representative, and I know you're all going to agree anyway. But Ian, you agree as well, yeah? Good. And Alex, now, I mean, I know you're here as the expert, but not much of an expert to be done here. It will be Chilwell, and it has to be Reece and James if James isn't at right centre back, right?
Yes.
There you go. Let's get into the midfield then. Even that kind of picks itself, to be honest, for the most part. Kante will play here. Whether he will play as offensively as against Liverpool and basically turn into a number 10 for half the game, we'll see about that. I guess the only debate is, do you do something different to play Enzo here, or does Enzo need to be the deepest again? As much as I don't think this suits him perfectly, I mean, yeah, we just have to do what has to be done, and then I think it kind of has to be that. This is the only one that you can maybe put up for debate, but even that probably should just be Kovacic. I mean, Mount ain't fit to play, let's be honest. I know he travelled, but if the dude has a hernia or some sort of pubic bone issue that's been ongoing for, at this point, nearly 2 months, he's clearly not all of a sudden going to be fine tomorrow. And the last thing we need is, I mean, Thiago Silva is one thing. He's a centre-back. especially if we play defensively. He's not going to do that much running. But the last thing we need is a midfielder who's basically balls hurt every step he takes. Like, we can't have that. So Mount ain't an option. And then are you going to throw Zakaria in there first time since his injury? No. Are you going to throw Gallagher in there? Absolutely no. And then what do you do? So even kind of the midfield picks itself. See, on this one, Alex, I'm going to let you go first. Do you agree that we can't really pick any other midfield if we play this formation? Or is there a different shout which maybe I have thought?
I mean, my answer completely depends on, is Zakaria really written off? Because if not, then I'd be putting him straight in defensive midfield and Enzo instead of Kovacic.
I don't know how written off he is. He just hasn't played in so many weeks where I'm like, is the Bernabeu the place to do that again? I guess he played for Switzerland, but for Chelsea, he hasn't played in a hot minute. So I'm like, is the Bernabeu the place to come back in?
Yeah, if for argument's sake he's match fit or near enough match fit, I'd be like I said at the start. If you're playing Chilwell, Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Fofana, and James, you're not out here to try and dominate Madrid in possession. You're out here to defend and quickly hit forward. And I don't think you can do that with Enzo Fernandez as your like quote unquote defensive midfielder. So what is the point of playing a midfield? Right, I'm looking at that. Kante is going to be pressing from the front. You've not really got anyone sitting in there. I might as well assume if he was match fit, I'd have Zakaria in there and then Kante, Enzo Fernandez. It's defensive, but that's the point.
There you go. Fair enough. I mean, is there anyone other than Zakaria that you'd consider if you were like, okay, you shouldn't do this with Enzo for this one-off? Or is it just Zakaria that you'd consider?
I don't know. I've forgotten who plays for Chelsea. You've got so many players in midfield.
I mean, let me think. Who is there?
Ruben, you've got.
I mean, you could throw Chalobah into DM. You could, I guess, Loftus-Cheek. And that's it. Because you can't play Gallagher there. And who else? You guys
would definitely be better positioned than me to say it. But I think if there's any game this season you're going to try and play Enzo Fernandez further forward, it's this one. Because you don't need him orchestrating play from deep. You need him getting the ball.
One decisive pass that we need.
Yes, exactly that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right, so I'll start with you again. Has Alex convinced you of doing this craziness and playing Zakaria? Not because it's necessarily crazy because of who Zakaria is and what he does. It would be craziness just purely because he hasn't played in so long. I know maybe he came on in like one game a few weeks ago on the Potter, but I don't think Lampard even included him in the squad on Saturday.
Zakaria's got as much chance of playing as Chukwuemeka has, and Chukwuemeka's not even in the squad, so...
Yeah, but we're not talking about who has a chance, do you know what I mean?
No, my midfield three would be Enzo, Kante, and Kovacic. I think that's our strongest midfield. Okay. Ian, has Alex changed your mind at all? Maybe this was your idea in the first place, but has he changed your mind, or do you still think not having played a lot at all recently is too much of a counterpoint to Zakaria to give him a start in this game?
I really like Zakaria. I don't think this is the right game for him. I've got to be honest. Could he come off the bench and cause havoc by running around like a headless chicken, putting a foot in, breaking up play, getting also his height involved? Yeah, but from the start, I don't think it's the right idea. So I still would stick with the Enzo, Kante, and Kovacic saga, whatever that is.
Fair. And Darmesh, has Alex changed your mind?
Yes and no at the same time, because I've said on your stream and also Charlie's stream as well that I've always wanted to see like what an Enzo and sort of like Zakaria midfield would look like, and I still haven't really seen that yet. I just want to see how that sort of balances out, especially with Kante. But I don't think at the Bernabeu's my opinion, the right place to sort of experiment that, just to see how well or bad it goes. So yeah, based on that, I'd agree with the midfield that we've got on the screen right now. But I definitely do want to see Zakaria get game time, because I do like him, to be fair. Just from the little sample size that we've had, I think he's done pretty decent, to be fair. And it's just a shame that he hasn't really played more, to be honest, because I'd like to see more of him.
First, I mean, Accounting Analytics Academy. Unfortunately, I think like this is the furthest away from the truth you could have gone. I think that's about the last place we should put Kante, personally, because it's just we need Kante so badly. If you put in a position where he can't do anything but try to intercept a few passes, that's the last thing where you should put him.
Let's also be very real here as well. I mean, we're currently saying, oh, Enzo's going to sit deep and all this sort of stuff, and we're trying to work it out. All three of these will be right in front of that back three because we'll be defending for our lives. So it actually doesn't matter which one's slightly further forward. They're all going to be deep.
That's another thing.
Anyway.
Exactly. Like Ashraf put it here. This is not a 3-5-2 doesn't have a lone DM in the same logic, because a lone DM in a 4-back allows the two centre backs to split, and the lone DM fills the gap, not fully dropping deep, but like kind of here, and then fills that role to still in a way build as a 3. Not really, but you get the point. With a 3-back behind it, a midfield 3 doesn't sit 1 DM 2 above. If anything, it's got to be one of these, and then it depends on where Kante is. Does he start in here, or does he run around these places? And he will probably do both. But like Ian just said, they are essentially going to be next to each other. It's not a lone DM situation. It's a midfield 3 situation.
But my problem with that is that, say if Chelsea have the ball, like of those midfield 3, 2 of them are going to be pushing forward, and it's going to be Kante and Kovacic. It's going to be Enzo, who's probably your most dangerous player in the final third. He's going to be the one.
That's our issue ever since we signed him, because we were idiots and decided Jorginho was the guy to let go.
Yeah,
he was.
Then you could have allowed Enzo to.
He was.
He was what?
He was the right person to let go.
Nah, absolutely no.
100%.
Not with Enzo, because we signed a player for 120 odd million, and we're playing him where he's not as good as he can be, and that's, you spend 120 million to put someone out of position. I mean, how stupid is that?
Loz, can I just tell you this? I don't know if you've realised it yet, but we're shit.
We are shit.
It didn't really matter who
we
was
get
playing
any better
where
since
anyway.
Jorginho left? That's a different.
I reckon I could get a game at left back. Do you know what I mean? It could be anything.
Say much for Ben Chiwell. I thought you liked him.
I don't you laugh. I see you over there. I can play left back. I ain't got left foot, but I can play it.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no. I mean, it's we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one, especially for this game where the DM isn't gonna do much running anyways. It would have helped so much to still have Jorginho, even if you don't want to start him, to have that option rather than Zakaria, who, by the way, hasn't played as a DM since he left Borussia Mönchengladbach 4 years ago. And him, the football expert, saying that's still your best choice. Like, that says how dramatic our squad issues are right now in terms of the midfield. Because, like, yeah, we have 17 8s and not 1 6. Brilliant squad choice that is. Great, just amazing. But yeah, I mean, there you go. I guess I don't really know. I know Alex picked Zakaria, but I guess the overwhelming majority has still picked this. So that's what we are going to pick. Let's get on screen at least, even if we will obviously take Alex's opinion and remember it and see what happens tomorrow, and complain about it after if he didn't start Zakaria. What about this front two then? You know what, Alex? I'll let you start again. Obviously, I know you haven't watched every game. Of course not. So maybe it's a bit more of a tricky one for you to judge, but should Havertz be dropped? Should we play a front two of Felix and Sterling? I mean, I guess you could replace Sterling by Pulisic or Mudryk if you wanted to. But basically, Felix and Sterling. The only problem is then, number one, the main guy to head away corners is then gone. Number two, we don't have any tall players forward, so when we need to punt it, we already know beforehand we're not going to keep it. So at the same time, with the front two, you kind of know you're not going to keep it no matter who you play up front, because that's the issue with the front two, I guess. One other issue, can I talk, man? Felix and Sterling haven't played together once other than on the weekend, and then they played so far away from each other for the whole game that they were both useless because obviously left wing, right wing. What do you think is our best choice to go for in a front two, Alex?
Yeah, you might have heard me typing. I was Googling your squad because I forgot who you could pick up front. There's so many players.
Yeah.
But
also not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Same as midfield, where it's like you've got so many people you can pick, but at the same time, so few. Because I feel like your only option is Kai Havertz basically has to start. And that's not a compliment to him. It's just, well, Aubameyang's not been, like, if we're going with Sakari, it's not going to start. I don't think Aubameyang will. He's not been playing right.
No. Like, I mean, he came on the weekend.
Aubameyang's not even in the squad, so he can't play.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Oh, yeah, he ain't even in the squad anyway. That is true.
Yeah, there we go. So Aubameyang can't play. And then there's no one else to be a profile like Havertz. So I think it is needed to be a bit more of a taller player. It's interesting. I did look into his stats recently. He was winning like a considerable amount of aerial duels per 90. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like about 2.7, which
he
that
actually has the highest aerial success rate of any forward in the whole Premier League, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Shows about
it just doesn't show at all. But I'd actually be quite confident with starting Sterling because this feels very much like
with Havertz.
Yeah, well, I mean Havertz has to play, but I'm confident starting Sterling isolated at least, right? Because this feels like a very similar role he has to play for England, where it's like quite a defensive team at back three, and it's like what he did at the Euros, where I think we kind of saw him at his best when he's allowed a lot of freedom to drift around across the pitch and play off someone up front. And I'm not saying like that's going to damage Madrid. I'm not saying he's going to score a goal, but I think of all of your forward options, it's probably the best you've got. And then, yeah, it seems like Havertz start
because that's interesting. Because for me, Felix is the only guarantee. For me, it's like the question is who starts with Felix. Is it do you just play Havertz because you have to, or do you do something different and just play two fast players? Well, not that Kai is slow, but especially in terms of acceleration, just play Sterling and Felix. The other counter argument to Sterling is obviously until Saturday he had only played 5 minutes since injury. Then he started on the weekend, which no one understands why. He was also absolutely god-fucking awful for every single second he was on the pitch for. But obviously, he did get those 67 minutes on Saturday. So I guess you might as well use them and hope he's now fresher for it. So it's a difficult one. But you wouldn't consider Felix and Sterling together at all? Just, as a pace outlet.
I mean, you know how much of a fan I am of Joao Felix. But I think he's best in games where his team has a lot of possession. It's a lot of the reason why he didn't work at Atletico Madrid. And this is quite a similar system to what Atletico Madrid played with him. And I think the reason is because Felix works with a lot of players around him in the final third. With this, especially with Sterling next to him, he's going to be tasked with being the guy to hold the ball up, essentially.
That's true.
And instead of turning and running to goal, which is probably what he wants to do. So it feels very much like a lot of these selections are by force. Like Felix has to play because he's on loan and I guess he's the most informed. But from a tactical perspective, I don't think he makes. I think he makes some of the least sense actually in the Chelsea team.
Very interesting. Very interesting. See, I agree with in terms of the logic. My idea was just okay. We get the ball at some point. Either Kepa saves it or the centre backs get the ball. Then we somehow beat the press, pass it to Kovacic or Kante, who then turns around and then plays another through ball to Sterling or Felix, while the other one that doesn't receive the ball also makes a run, and then we cut it across in front of the goalkeeper and have it happen.
That shot goes around.
That's the only way we're going to score, bro. Like, let's be honest here. The only way we're going to score is give the ball to the midfielder, play another through ball to one of the two forwards, and then either they score or square it. Like, there's just all corners, obviously. But otherwise, we're not going to score a goal. So, I'm not even sure whether it's Havertz or Felix or whoever. The long balls aren't going to, in terms of the long balls to hold it up, isn't going to work anyway. So, should we even adapt the team to someone that can do that when no matter who we pick, that's going to work anyway?
Well, it's going to improve your chances of getting up the field. And it's not getting the I don't know. I don't see the point in starting Felix over Havertz for this game, just because Felix is necessarily going to be better at passing the ball across and getting into the box, because I feel like you're not going to get up the pitch as easily without Havertz. And as I say, Havertz is like a golden player for this game. Like, if I had freedom to pick players from across any of Europe's teams, I'm not sure either of these two would be starting up front in a 3-5-2 for me. No. But at least with Havertz, you have someone who can receive the ball between the lines, is a bit more comfortable than Felix taking it in tight spaces. And then if he passes it off to someone else, if he gets Sterling off running in behind him, it works. Whereas I feel like Felix and Sterling, they'd kind of want to do the same thing. At least here you have two more clear, distinct profiles, which are more likely to work together than Felix and Sterling, in my opinion, aiming to do more of the same thing.
Fair enough. You know what? I'm going to pick Alex and put Alex's choice on screen for now, and I'll see whether he convinced any of the boys. Pies, has Alex convinced you? Because I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily expect him to say don't play Felix. As much as what he said makes sense, I still didn't really see it coming, to be honest. Because if we did like a predicted 11, Felix is probably one of the first names that, on Lampard's team sheet. So what about you, Pice? Do you, no matter what Alex said, do you still start Felix, or did you change your mind?
I still start Felix, but I mean, thinking about this discussion, I don't think there's a way that either Havertz or Sterling don't also start. So I actually think if I had a prediction and he went for a 3 at the back, I think it'll be a 3-4-3, not a 3-5-2. But if it's like this, which is what we've got on the screen, I'd probably go Havertz and Felix just because they've played together already a few times. I think Dortmund.
That's go on.
Yeah, I think those two, just because they've played together. And I mean, Sterling, Mudryk off the bench, if the game gets a little bit stretched, I think those could be good pace outlets. But with what Lampard was saying about Sterling and, the big occasion and all that last night, I don't see a way he doesn't start. And I just think he's going to want Felix to be, I think he'll look to Felix to be like the creator, try and create something out of nothing type thing. And then Havertz, I think you kind of have to play him because as much as I don't rate Havertz, he does play well in the Champions League. Like the Champions League, he's done very well for us in that competition. So he seems to turn up on the big nights. And also you guys make good points about like, if it is this, like, who have we got to hit going up front? We've got no one, 2 small players. Like, you kind of have to have, like, some sort of outlet, So, and he is very good at defending corners as well. So, I mean,
they might play... Alex said Alaba might play left back. But if Alaba does turn out at centre-back and Camavinga plays left-back, well, Alaba is most certainly beatable in the air, that's for sure. He's a great player, but he's just a bit short to win all your headers. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Just purely for that reason, we should probably swap it because Alaba will be on the other side. And then I guess you'd want to put Havertz against Alaba. But there you go. Ian, I know you need to head off in a second because the potatoes have been saved. So your mind, has it been changed by Alex? Or what was your thought before that anyway?
I think I'm going to go for something completely rogue. I think you play Felix and Mudryk.
Felix and Mudryk. All right. On the basis of what? Just purely pace
Pure
logic?
pace.
Or?
Pure pace. I mean, you look at when we scored the goals against them before. I mean, Werner was so impactful against Real Madrid in both years that we played against them. I think you need to stretch the pitch. I think you need to try and make it as big as possible. It's a massive pitch anyway. With the pace that they've got, I think you need to start with Felix and Mudryk just to try and exploit them. Havertz come on second half where you might need a little bit more link-up play potentially. But I think if you want to try and, I've said it before, that I said it the whole way through the stream, I'm defend like hell and try and get one on the counter-attack. That is my approach for this game. But I think that doing it consistently, if you want to try and have that pressure and soak it up, and when you do go forward, you sustain it for a bit more time, then yeah, you play Havertz. But realistically, I think that Chelsea are going to be right under the cosh. And I think that having someone like Mudryk with how fast he is, with the reputation he's got at the Bernabeu for what he did for Shakhtar, I think it's going to be a massive factor. I don't necessarily think that, they're going to go, oh my God, we fear Mudryk massively because of what he did, for Shakhtar. But I don't care about that reputation. All I care about is who is going to do it for Chelsea on the night. And I think that there is going to be certain members of the Madrid staff that will then look at it and go, we now need to think about this problem that's going forward. I think they'll look at Havertz and think we can probably mark him out of the game largely. I understand what you're saying about the long ball over the top and who's going to be the potential one to get on the end of that. But I think realistically, with how we're setting up, I don't see us playing a lot of aerial football. I see us keeping the ball low. And I think that if you isolate someone like Eder Militao, who is a great centre-half, I really do like him. But I think if you isolate him, maybe try and get someone like, to be fair, even Sterling would do it as well. But I think Felix or Mudryk, if you get them into a one-on-one battle, they are totally beatable. And I think the other thing as well with Rudiger, is he going to play? Is that likely to happen? Or I haven't really watched there.
Yeah, he's predicted to start by most papers.
Yeah, I just think with that aerial unit that they've got at the back, I just don't see that there is a need to try and play that bigger striker that's going to try and hold the ball up for you in that sort of regard. Darwin Núñez, when Liverpool played Real Madrid, did nothing. Did absolutely nothing. And it's because they have these absolute units at the back. So try and go for something a little bit different. Try and go for something that they're maybe not expecting as much. Maybe it's the start of something beautiful. But in the Champions League, when there's space in the game and the size of the pitch at the Bernabeu as well, I think that you need to have quick players, because when we do get those opportunities, it needs to be cutthroat and it needs to be ruthless. And I just think the pace is something that they're not going to be able to deal with.
See, I don't have a complete, I'm not completely against using Mudryk like that. Now, I haven't seen enough of him. He scored from an offside position when he was 1-on-1, but when he was then onside, he kind of rolled into the arms of the goalkeeper. But then he just does seem like that type of guy that with the very biggest pressure, he just turn up. Maybe obviously I'm misjudging. He hasn't played enough for us to really have a fair judgment on that. But it just seems like the type of guy. But if I'd play Mudryk, I think he's the one you have to play with Havertz. For me.
I understand the logic in it, but again, I just don't think that Havertz is going to be as feared in this game as two players that are absolutely rapid. We've already spoken about, how much they're going to come forward, how much they're going to dominate the ball, all those sorts of things. Havertz is not fast. He moves well, he glides across the pitch, but he's not fast. If it's a full-on foot race against someone like Alaba or even Rudiger, who plays right back, is it still Carvajal for them? Yeah. He'll get absolutely murked, to be honest with you, when it comes to a pure pace battle. I just think it's something you really need to consider. I'm not saying it will happen, but I think for me to get the most out of Mudryk in this game, in this particular tie, you need to start him while there's space in the game. Because if Real Madrid go forward and then you bring Mudryk on, I just think it's a waste of time.
Oh, see, that's the point I disagree. I think you've got an interesting point about Mudryk and potentially exploiting the space in the game. But my concern would be if you're starting him, you're starting him against a fit Eder Militao and Rudiger. And Militao is one of the quickest centre-backs in Europe.
Yeah.
I think you've got a good plan, but I think it would work best if you brought Mudryk on even after half time. Of course, that's dependent on Chelsea still being in the game.
That's the thing.
If Chelsea's still in the game, if Real Madrid score, then they're going to be forgiving a lot of. They're going to be less forgiving of space in behind them. But if it's still 0-0 or even 1-0 Chelsea for whatever reason, I think that's a great time to bring on Mudryk. I think one against a tired defense and two against the defense that are pushing up a bit more.
Yeah, I think they're going to not necessarily be aggressive from early doors or anything like that. But I do think the Real Madrid are going to start fast. I don't think it's going to be, they're going to go all at it for the first 25 minutes. But I think that they are going to want to go and win this game. The pressure is massively on them and it's not on us. And I think playing something completely different is going to be a bit of a shock. But someone's just said it in the chat. If Mount's fit, could Mount be someone that they're not necessarily factored in? I'm not saying I'd play him up front.
In the front too, do you know what I mean?
I probably wouldn't play him up front, but is it then something to consider who he might be the one to go and get on space in between the lines and stuff? And that could be something to potentially think about. But I think as of this lineup, I think you have to go pure pace just because Chilwell can get forward, Mudryk can get, James can get forward, Mudryk and Felix. I mean, even if you then throw Kante into the mix, if that's then your five going forward, all attacking with pace, that's a nightmare to deal with.
All right. Frank Lampard, by the way, in the press conference, has just a minute ago confirmed that Thiago Silva, Mason Mount, and Kante are all fit. So for Kante, obviously, we knew that in advance anyway. But for Thiago Silva and I guess Mount as well, that was... Well, for Thiago Silva, a huge positive. For Mount, I don't think it matters. But then it's Lampard, so he might play him anyway. But Ian, thank you for your time. Go have your potatoes. I appreciate you very much. We'll see you on the channel again very soon, hopefully. And we appreciate you very much.
Cheers, guys. All the best up the Chelsea. See you later.
Big up, bro.
See you, mate. As I go to Damesh, because I know Alex needs to head off in a second as well, and then we're going to round this one out anyways. Two things, ladies and gentlemen. Again, please place your vote in the poll for Koulibaly or Cucurella left centre back so I can end that vote. And also subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Damesh, who will be your front two?
Oh, I have myself on mute there. I see both the points that Alex and Ian were obviously making. I'd probably be more inclined to go with I think the Havertz and Felix duo up front, in my personal opinion, just so that we can have that sort of fluidity up front and that sort of link-up play that Pies mentioned before with the sort of chemistry that they've built over the past few weeks and stuff. But I definitely agree with what Alex said about maybe bringing them on, say like at halftime, or if the score's like 1-0, there's obviously more space for us to attack. I think Mudryk and Sterling will benefit that from more. So yeah, I'd go Felix and Havertz for this one, and then yeah, let's just see how it goes. It's a shame Aubameyang can't play. Otherwise, I probably would have stuck Aubameyang maybe with either one of them, and I think Felix will be right up for it as well with that Madrid rivalry as well. So there's that extra incentive for him to do well there as well. So yeah, I'll probably stick with Felix and Havertz, but I don't really trust any of them to bag a goal, to be honest, unless they have the games of their lives, which we don't really see often, especially from Havertz. But yeah, let's just see how it goes.
There you go. There you go. I mean, it's a tough one to pick now because a lot of different things were picked, but I guess most people picked Havertz and Felix. I don't know. It's because I'm like, scoring isn't the thing that matters in terms of, and attacking isn't the thing that matters. And I think for the one-off chance to create when that one through ball does go through, whether it's Sterling or Mudryk with Felix, I think probably is more likely to just breed a goal in the end. Because, I mean, someone said here, pace with no end product. Yeah, but you can say that about almost every attacker that we have. So, like, yeah, I don't think that's a thing to say necessarily about Mudryk. Mudryk has certainly missed less chances than Felix has. That's for damn sure. Because he's had less chances, simple as that. But yeah, there you go. I guess we have that. Sterling, I'm still not sure how fit is he really. Lampard can tell me all he wants about how fit everyone is. Well, you started Sterling and thought he was fit on Saturday. Well, he fucking certainly wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So, like, who the flip knows what he's going to do? But, yeah, I don't really know. Last one, and this will include you now, Alex, as we round this one out. Score predictions. Do you give us any chance of at least taking a result back to the bridge to have something left to fight for?
It's interesting because I was just putting some thought into this, and I wanted to make sure I'd get a good, realistic prediction in. So I'm probably going to go about 3-0 Madrid.
Yeah. No, that was going.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside perspective, I know you've already heard it all, but like, just from that game plan as well, even if we had a great game plan, like your huge squad that's somehow not huge, it just forces you into the decisions you don't want to take. And Real Madrid, the kings of the Champions League. If you, I'll counter it with this. If you get to 60 minutes and it's still 0-0, that's when I start thinking Chelsea have a real chance in this tie. But the fact it's 2 legs as well, I don't know. Especially after the game against Wolves, I saw the highlights of it. Chelsea like an utter mess. I've got no confidence in that team. I'll just start but I'm the higher ups. I'm just writing this game off expecting nothing and just focusing on next season.
Yeah, no, there you go. Hey, from your perspective, I would probably say the same. It's just that I honestly, as much as I love Lampard, I would be a lot more confident going into this if we still had Potter. I tell you as honestly as it is for this game, because, well, Lampard had Saturday and he also had Bayern in 2020, and we knew how that went. Now, obviously, the team was very different, but it was equally as unbalanced as this team is. So, you know, and we didn't even play a back three in that game against Bayern, if I remember correctly. Score prediction, Damesh. What would you say?
Alex is probably going to be right. Like, as soon as it's a 3-0, I'm just like, I tried to act.
Now, see, I think he's wrong. I think there's no way we get battered. I don't think the players let us get battered. If Lampard picks a back three, if we play a back four, we might lose 7-0.
Yeah.
There's every chance of that. Like, if Lampard turns out with a 4-3-3, number one, he should get sacked tomorrow. And, like, I don't care. Like, bring Bruno back. Like, figure something out. Because if he fucks it up in 2 games in a row, in one of the only games that matters, well, then he needs to go again. I don't care how much of a legend he is. Sorry, but no. I can't be having that. But anyway, sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah, no, I think it should be 2 separate predictions because it's like your head and your heart. Like, obviously, I want us to get a good result, but at the same time, look at Madrid's team, Champions League and stuff. They're going to just, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Real Madrid win. I think we'll score, and I think we'll limit them to 1 goal at least, and that will take us to the bridge with some hope, I think. Well, I hope not, I think, anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Pice, your score prediction, what would you say?
I'm going with 3-1 Real Madrid. I think they'll score early and it'll be a long night for us. I think we might get one back, but I think 3-1 Real Madrid is my prediction. Benzema with 2 goals and probably Rodrigo or someone like that.
Who's scoring for us, bro?
Rudiger scores no goal.
They have it. They
No,
say
I
that.
think
than any of our players to score. Let's be honest.
Havertz will score.
Penalty.
Havertz.
Penalty, maybe.
Yeah.
Do we get a penalty? I don't know, man. Will we get anywhere near their 18-yard box? That's my question. I will say 1-0 Madrid. Yeah, I just hope that we don't crumble once we concede that goal. That's my fear. I have a fear that while it's 0-0, I think we're going to hold our own and do all right. But once they score, that's when I'm scared that we will then capitulate as we always do, or that Lampard loses the plots. Even if he starts the back three, that he switches to a back four then for some whatever reason. Maybe at a back, if once we're 2 down, but then we'll lose by 4. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think we'll score if we set up properly, as much as that sounds weird. But, yeah, if we take a 1-0 to the Bridge, I think there's at least a chance we turn that around. We've done crazy things at the Bridge before. But I honestly don't know.
Do you know what it is as well? I think with the aggregate score, I think if it's less than 2, I still feel like there's a chance against anyone. But anything more than 2, I think just write yourself off. I know it's Madrid and stuff, but anything with a 2-goal aggregate is possible. Like even what Pi said about 3-1, like it's not as bad as 3-0, I guess, with the goal that we could possibly have. But yeah. I'd rather sort of keep it under sort of 2 in a way, and take it to the Bridge, see what happens.
Exactly that. I mean, LR25 says based on how Real battered Liverpool, but that's the thing. Liverpool, I don't know what Klopp was thinking. They were 2-0 up, and they didn't understand that you're 2-0 up against Real Madrid. Maybe sit a bit deeper, man. Real Madrid, the one thing they're insanely good at is hitting you with pace. They've always been that. Ever since, I don't know if it was before Jose turned up there, but Jose turned them into their best counter-attacking team ever, and they still haven't lost it. Completely different players under Benzema and Mudryk. No, it's not Mudryk. Modric. But they still are that. You know, they punt a long ball to Vinicius. He hits that with pace. Benzema turns up in some sort of space. No one knows how he found it, but he found it. Then they have a cutback and it's 1-0. That's what they're best at. So if we're just not idiots and let them do that, then maybe I should have even said 0-0, because I believe we can stop them at least from scoring a lot. All you need to do is not go high. Like Alex touched on it earlier. The few games that they do lose is when the opponent actually sits deep properly. And that's all we need to do. And we can do that. So it's a question of how well we'll do it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all. Appreciate all my wonderful guests' time. Shout out to Ian again. Subscribe to his channel. I'm not sure how regularly uploads on it, but subscribe to it regardless. Please do follow Alex on his TikTok and his YouTube account. Link in the description. He has started using the YouTube account more again. So check that out. Subscribe to him. Help him get to, I think 5K is the next big one. So help him get to 5K subs over there, because, you never know how much longer TikTok will last. So, we need to get the YouTube going beforehand. Please, of course, check out Pice's website, London's First, and his Twitter. And, of course, check out Dharmesh as well. You can see his Twitter ads on screen, and the link is also down in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Let's pray to God, and we'll see you next time.